Welcome to this live English lesson about a very unhappy topic, but sometimes we have to talk about the good things. Sometimes we have to talk about the bad things. Today is one of those bad things. Today we will be talking about man-made disasters. And one of the first things we will talk about is what is the difference between man-made disasters and natural disasters. Hope you're ready to learn about some man-made disasters. Let's get to it. The first thing we do need to talk about is what's a disaster in English? And how is that different from a natural disaster? Because today we are talking about man-made disasters. Well, if you look at the bottom, a disaster is something really bad that happens. Man-made is the opposite of natural. People are not to blame for natural disasters. I will probably do an English lesson on natural disasters, but if you know what earthquakes are, or tsunamis, or hurricanes and tornadoes, well, people aren't to blame for that. It's just natural. It happens naturally. If you believe in God, well, maybe you think God has something to do with it, or maybe just Mother Nature. It's just something that happens. But today, we are going to talk about disasters, and it's man's fault. It's humans' fault that these things happen. And in that picture, in the background, you might see what we call a nuclear power plant. Right over there is a nuclear power plant. These were way more common in the 1980s. In my state, where I live, Maine, we had a nuclear power plant. And we would get our energy from nuclear power, something that looks like that. But it closed down a few years ago because people were worried about safety. Nuclear accident. Take a look down there. A nuclear accident is when something goes wrong at a nuclear power plant, releasing dangerous levels of radiation. Yes, in English, we call this stuff radiation. Let's talk about what it is. I'm going to show you a symbol in just a minute, and hopefully you will know what it is in your language, and you will say, oh, I know what radiation is. Radiation is a form of energy. Energy is good, right? Because of energy, you can watch me on the internet. But radiation is a type of energy that can go through different kinds of material, including humans. And that is when bad things happen. In a nuclear power plant, you have what we might call silos, and that keeps the radiation contained. It doesn't let it out. It doesn't let it seep out. That is a good English phrasal verb, to seep out. Think of a car tire. It is filled with air. Well, if you roll over a nail, the air might seep out. That means to go out of it slowly. So with nuclear power plants, you want radiation to stay in there. Let's talk about a couple sentences that use nuclear accidents. The nuclear accident scared the nearby residents because of the radiation. And of course, you can't see the radiation. And when we talk about some of these nuclear disasters, it's hard to say how many people died or how many people were affected. How about this sentence? What are some bad things that radiation can do to you? Well, some bad things radiation can do to humans is burn our skin, cause cancer, and hurt unborn babies still inside their mother's bellies. So you can see, we might call this a fetus. It's a little baby inside the mother. And radiation can really affect the development of a baby. They will not grow as they should if radiation is involved. Now, sometimes doctors will use radiation when we talk about X-rays. That might be one of the first English words you learn, X-ray, because not too many words in English begin with X. So a lot of times when you are learning the English alphabet, X-ray will be the example for X. Doctors use a special kind of radiation to take X-rays and see inside our bodies. But too much radiation can be dangerous. So if a doctor thinks you might have broken your leg, they might take an X-ray to see if the bone is broken. Sometimes when I go to the dentist, I will need X-rays of my teeth. They will put this machine by my mouth, take an X-ray of my teeth, but I will wear, we might call it a lead vest in English. They make you wear this vest so that the radiation doesn't go into your chest. They just want it in this one spot. And whoever is giving the X-ray, we might call them an X-ray technician. Big word. I think this is an advanced English lesson. The person who gives you your X-ray is an X-ray technician. Well, they might leave the room when the radiation goes through your mouth. So too much radiation can be bad. Radiation can damage the cells in your body, which make it hard for your body to work the way it should. Cells. That is a science term in English. It's basically the smallest parts of your body. You need a microscope to see your cells. This is a good time to check the chat, see if there are any questions. We have already covered a lot in this English lesson. Radiation, X-rays, cells, X-ray technician. We were talking about X-rays, but now let's talk about a couple specific nuclear disasters. If you know anything about flags, there are two flags on the screen. Please let me know in the chat. Do you know either of these two countries? One still exists. One no longer exists. In 1991, this one country became 15 countries, I think. Oh, so close. So close. Definitely Japan is one of them. In English, we call that country Japan. That is the white flag with the red circle. Yeah. Etienne. And so in English, we would say the Soviet Union. Etienne, nicely done. Japan and the Soviet Union. So now, I think the first one we talk about is Chernobyl. And Freddie, very nice. I believe that is the way you say it in Russian, but we might say USSR in English, or we might say the Soviet Union. So maybe you already know what I am going to talk about, but Chernobyl. That's how we say it in English. Chernobyl. Easy for me to say. Chernobyl was a terrible accident that happened in the Soviet Union. It's now Ukraine in 1986, causing many people to get sick. So this was in April 28th, I think, of 1986. Chernobyl is remembered as one of the worst nuclear disasters in history. It is unclear how many people died, but 31 died from the first waves of radiation. So within a couple days, 31 people who were exposed to that radiation, probably because they were trying to fix the problem, they died shortly after the accident. But we don't know how many people died from the long-term effects of the radiation. So maybe 10 years down the road, people developed cancer because they were exposed to the radiation. So if I had the Japanese flag and the old Soviet flag, we now need to talk about Japan. And this one, in English, we say Fukushima. Fukushima. That could be totally wrong. In Japan, they may say it in Japanese differently, but we say Fukushima. This was another nuclear disaster. It happened in 2011. This was caused by natural disasters. So it's a little different. Chernobyl, it was because humans messed up. This man-made disaster was caused by a natural disaster. So let's talk a little bit about that. Fukushima was a nuclear accident in Japan in 2011, caused by a big earthquake and tsunami. Now, the reason I didn't say this was a natural disaster is because humans built that nuclear power plant. If it didn't exist, it wouldn't have been a big disaster. It would have been just the tsunami and earthquake. But because people built the nuclear power plant right near the ocean that might experience a tsunami, well, I think that humans are to blame for this one. But after the Fukushima accident, people around the world talked more about nuclear safety. And I know in Germany, there were plans to build about 12 new nuclear power plants in Germany. And after Fukushima, the German government said, maybe we need to think about this a little more. One last one. Just because I didn't want to leave the United States out of the disasters, a small disaster happened in the United States back in 1979 at a place called 3 Mile Island. 3 Mile Island was a nuclear accident in the United States in 1979, but it wasn't as bad as the other two. No, this could have been bad because 3 Mile Island, it's in the state of Pennsylvania, but it's very close, or it was very close to New York City. Luckily, people caught this in time, so it was not a major disaster, it could have been bad. 3 Mile Island accident led to many changes in how nuclear power plants are run. Luckily, the problem was caught in time. All right, we are going to talk about a couple other ways radiation can damage you, but let's check the chat. Let's just make sure. Okay, Michael is talking more about how he is a man-made disaster. All right, Brent, let me just fix the location of Chernobyl. Yes, it belongs to Ukraine, not Russia. That is true. It was part of the Soviet Union, which is why I had the Soviet flag, the hammer and the sickle, and it is in present-day Ukraine. Just checking the chat. All right, Thomas. He may be an older gentleman like myself, and he can remember all of these disasters. When 3 Mile Island happened, I was a baby, so I do not remember that one. I was about 4 years old, but I do remember Chernobyl. I was about 11 years old, and definitely Fukushima I remember. All right. Okay, in France, because of Chernobyl, I heard that there was a radiation cloud that moved over a lot of Europe, right? Sweden was affected. Yeah, eager to learn. Great point. Yeah, there could be different diseases while the children are developing in their mother's womb. Uranium. That's what we call it in English. That is the major natural resource that creates nuclear energy, uranium. Could be similar in other languages like French or Spanish. All right, Michael. Chernobyl was scary. We weren't allowed to feed hay we made shortly after the accident. All the milk in our region was dumped for weeks. Michael, I did not know that. That is pretty scary. Thank you for sharing. All right, Thomas. I think Thomas is from Germany, right? So we have no nuclear power plants anymore. Yeah, all of the nuclear power plants near me have also closed. We had something called Maine Yankee. When I was in elementary school, we actually toured it. My school took a bus and we toured the nuclear power plant, but they closed it down shortly after. All right. Don't want to get the French government in too much trouble. Ukraine is in the house over on Facebook. If you are watching on Facebook, if you want to chat, I will put your comment on the screen, but I don't want to make YouTube mad. So I can see your chat. I just can't put it on the screen. American English with Brent, if you would like to chat on screen. Muhammad, how old am I? I'm an old man. Can you see the gray in my beard? My hair that I no longer have? I am 48 years old. An old man, old enough to remember Chernobyl. Well, man-made disasters come in many styles, not just nuclear power plants. But before we move on to other great topics like oil spills and mining disasters, let's talk about a couple other things that could happen to your body if you are exposed to radiation. If your skin is exposed to a lot of radiation, it can cause burns, similar to a bad sunburn. And I have talked about sunburns in other English lessons. I think the one about the skin Yeah, and there is a picture of somebody burning their skin. Like, that's really bad. That is a really bad burn. The next one, the next man-made disaster. What about an oil spill? Oil. Right now, I am warm inside my house because of oil. If you own a car or if you take the bus, there's a good chance that oil keeps your engine running smoothly. It's a dark black liquid. Well, sometimes when the oil goes from one place to the other, it can leak or it can spill. And in English, we call it an oil spill. An oil spill is when a lot of oil gets into the ocean or onto land, hurting animals and the environment. Let me make this picture bigger. You can see there is a large ship on a large body of water, maybe the ocean, maybe a really large lake, and it looks like there isn't as much water in that picture as there is black, inky oil, which is not good for anybody. You want the oil in your house, you want the oil in your car, you don't want it in the water or on the land. Here's an example sentence. The oil spill covered the birds in black oil, making it hard for them to fly. Yeah, very sad picture here. One of the biggest oil spill disasters took place in the United States. I will talk about this. I also remember this disaster, and a lot of birds were covered in that oil, and it made it very difficult for them to fly. So I worried that many birds were being killed because of the oil spill, and I think that is what happened, unfortunately. This was big news back in 1989 in the United States. The Exxon Valdez, we called it in English. The Exxon Valdez was a big ship that spilled oil in Alaska in 1989, causing a lot of environmental damage. Environment. We need to talk about that word in just a second. But right now, I would like to take a break, take a sip of water, play a little something for you, and then get back to the English lesson. Where's my music? Here it is. Here it is. Hopefully it's not too loud for you.
If this lesson is helping your English improve, don't forget to tap that like button and share it with a friend who's learning English.
All right, I've taken a sip of water. Hopefully you have been reminded, if this English lesson is helping you, click the like button, subscribe, share it with a friend, all that good stuff. 103 people are watching. I hope you are all doing well. Let's check the chat here. Oh, there is some new things in the chat. All right. Do you think every major city in the world has pollution, like smog? Yeah, I don't think we're talking about smog in this English lesson. I think there might be 3 parts to this man-made disasters lesson. But yeah, smog, we will talk about it. I know some cities have more smog than others, but I do know that when I visit New York City, I do find it harder to breathe. We need to talk about the environment, don't we? Let's check the chat. See here. All right. Iwa, I hope I say that name correctly. I know you are from Ukraine. I remember the Chernobyl disaster. I was a child then. Because Poland borders Ukraine, We had to drink a special liquid that protected us against radiation. Interesting. Oh, so maybe you are from Poland. I'm sorry. I will be visiting Poland this summer. I can't wait. But I did not know that you had to drink a special liquid that protected against radiation. I didn't even know one existed. All right. Checking the chat here. Oh, so at least the U.S. is not the only one who has major oil spills. Freddie says we had a huge oil disaster near the French beaches, which killed thousands of animals. Super, super sad. Ooh. Amoco Cadiz? I'm probably saying that wrong. Thank you, Freddie. All right, Abdi, what is the cause of oil spills? Well, I think it's different for every oil spill, but for the one I talked about before, the Exxon Valdez, that big ship was coming into a narrow part of the ocean, I believe. And the captain of the ship had a few too many alcoholic drinks. He was drunk, and he actually ran the ship into some land, and it caused the oil to spill out of the vessel, the oil tanker. Yeah. Very sad. Yeah, Michael wasn't the captain of the Exxon Valdez drunk. That's what I remember. Yes. I'm glad you said that. Because I think if both of us are thinking that, then that is correct. So the last thing we talked about was environmental. That might be tough. So oil spills can cause a lot of environmental damage. Environmental is an adjective. It describes things. So environmental is an adjective describing natural things like air, land, water, plants, and animals. The environment is the noun. So the environment, natural things, and a lot of times during these man-made disasters, the environment suffers the most. Speaking of the environment, another problem that humans cause is something we call deforestation in English. Very big word. Deforestation. It is happening all over the world. It has happened all over the world. But right now, when I hear of deforestation, I think of Brazil. And I think of the Amazon rainforest. Let's talk about what deforestation is. Deforestation. Another man-made disaster is deforestation. Deforestation is cutting down lots of trees, which is bad for the earth and animals living in the forest. Yeah, I mean, it's bad for humans too. Excuse me. Because a little science, you probably know this in your own language, but I will explain it in English. Humans breathe in oxygen. We breathe out carbon dioxide. And one thing that produces a lot of oxygen are trees. So we really need trees for fresh air to breathe. But if there is deforestation, that's not good for us. That's not good for the environment. It's not good for the animals that live in those forests. And as I mentioned earlier, deforestation in the Amazon rainforest is a big problem for the whole planet. And I asked AI to make me a picture of the Amazon rainforest. I hope that's accurate. I'm not sure. But that is supposed to be the Amazon rainforest, which is mostly in Brazil. We have another one here. This picture is hard to look at. I hope you don't have water pollution where you live. Water pollution is when harmful things get into the water, making it unsafe for drinking and living creatures. Here's a sentence that I think goes well with this picture. The factory caused water pollution by dumping waste into the river. In the background, you can see all of the smoke coming from the factory. We will talk about air pollution in just a minute. But right now, it is about water pollution. Air pollution. Excuse me. Air pollution is when the air gets dirty from things like car exhaust and factory smoke, making it unhealthy to breathe. Exhaust. Think about like exhale. When you breathe in, you inhale. When you breathe out, you exhale. Exhaust from a car is all of the smoke that comes out of a car while it's running. Exhaust. You can imagine exhaust from cars and trucks. That is not good for the environment either. We call it air pollution. It is in this lesson that we talk about smog. That was mentioned earlier. So here is a big city. I mean, those might be low clouds there, but since we are talking about man-made disasters, it's going to be pollution here. The air pollution in the city is so bad that sometimes you can see smog hanging in the air. Smog. That might be a new term for you. Smog looks like smoke or fog. Smoke or fog, but it is full of pollutants. Seems like every new sentence, there is a new word. I try to do that. We'll talk about pollutants in a minute. But smog, it looks like fog. Fog is like low-lying clouds. Might look like smoke, but is full of pollutants. Pollutants. What are pollutants? We've talked about pollution. Pollution is like the bigger thing. Pollutants is the smaller things. You can even see the pollutants in the water. So air pollution is just like a general term. Like the air is not great to breathe. But if we go back to that picture of that river, it's full of waste, but you could also say pollutants. Pollutants are smaller things that cause pollution. I hope that is clear. Let's check the chat. See if there are any questions or comments. Vocabulary with Ali. I hope you are doing well. Adem. In Bangladesh, so many trees are cut down that it's leading to flooding. Yeah, every year I hear about Bangladesh during rainy season. There are so many people that live there near the water that flooding can cause a lot of damage. Ivana, how are you? It has been a while. Welcome. Poland, I believe, right? Dump. Is it a synonym to throw? If a word is a synonym, it means the same thing. So you can dump your trash. You can throw out your trash. So they're very close. You could dump out your trash. You could throw out your trash. So we do make phrasal verbs with them. But also dump can be the place where a city will bring their trash. Like all of the citizens of the city, there might be a place in the city where all the trash goes. That is also called a dump. So sometimes they are a synonym and sometimes they are not. FD, do you think deforestation occurs in large areas, tropical forests? I do. If you are watching on Facebook, I don't want to put any comments up with the Facebook logo. So if you would like to come on to YouTube and write your question or your comment there, it would probably be better. It's American English with Brent. Good question. Smug, smog. Smug, smog. Two slightly different pronunciations. Tanya, thank you so much. Thank you so much for the super chat. I do have a little something for you, and it is right here. It's right here. Right here. Right here. Watch your ears. It could be a little loud.
Oh, thank you so much for the super chat.
Thank you, Tanya. That's very helpful. You are very generous. Thank you so much. Pakistan is in the house. I just watched a video yesterday from Pakistan. One of my favorite YouTubers, Simon Wilson, took a train from, I think, Islamabad up to the Kush Valley. Is that right? I think. It looks like a great place to visit. All right. Tom, I'm not going to put that up on there. I don't know, man. That's an interesting word there. All right. Just checking the chat, see if anything else is going on. Tanya, thank you for that super chat. All right. There we go. Perfect. All right. I'm right. Okay, maybe. Yeah. I mean, Pakistan looks like a great place to visit. Oh, thank you so much. I learn very fast when I listen to you. Nastaran, thank you so much. All right. I'm not going to get too political. Singapore can be a little controversial, but it's hard to say that they don't have clean cities, right? I think some of the punishments are harsh for littering, but hey, it keeps the city clean. Absolutely. We have a couple more to talk about. If you are still ready to learn more English, next thing we should talk about, oh, look at that. That is not good. That is a very polluted river. But the next thing I would like to talk about is something we call an urban fire. In English, an urban fire. So when you hear urban in English, think big city. Luckily, this does not happen as often because most modern buildings in a city are not made from wood. So a lot of these older man-made disasters, when we talk about urban fires, will be from when cities were mostly made out of wooden buildings. So, an urban fire is a large fire that happens in a city, often destroying many buildings. Urban is another way to say city. Here is an example sentence using urban fire. The urban fire spread quickly because the houses were made from wood and were so close together. So we are going to talk about two old urban fires and one that happened in 2023 in the United States. Very sad situation. Okay, this is the London one. I asked AI, create a photo or an image of what the London fire may have looked like. So, the Great Fire of London in 1666 was a huge fire that destroyed much of the city. London, England, you have probably heard of it. 1666, there was a fire that destroyed most of London. The buildings were made of wood. They were close together. After the Great Fire of London, the city was rebuilt with safer, more fire-resistant buildings. Fire-resistant. Resistant might be a new word for you. Resistant comes from resist, which means to stop something from happening. I like pizza. I like pizza quite a bit. Sometimes I eat too much pizza. So a lot of times after I eat 2 pieces of pizza, I will resist eating a third. I will stop myself. No, Brent, you do not need that third piece of pizza. Please resist. Stop. So resistant, if something is fire resistant, it is less likely to catch on fire. That's the phrasal verb we will use. The building catches on fire. The building caught on fire. Now this next one. AI, you messed up. I asked AI, hey, create an image of the Boston Fire of 1872. And this is what it did. Here's what the Great Boston Fire was. The Great Boston Fire in 1872 was a big fire that destroyed a large part of Boston. 1872. I'm going to make this picture a lot bigger. And if you are in the chat watching live, I would like you to tell me what is wrong with this picture. 1872. Yeah, AI, you messed up again. What is wrong with this picture? Please let me know in the chat. Ooh, resist. Like pushing back. I love it. Ivana, what's the difference between made of and made from? Nothing. Luckily, nothing. They are the same. All right, I learned about the fire in 1666. Teacher said we should learn a lesson and be careful with fire. Great advice. Great advice. So does anybody, okay, Atem? The water spray position? I would say yes. That is part of it. I didn't even think of that. We're talking 1872. It looks like those firefighters are using hoses that are pretty powerful. I would agree. I don't think in 1872 they had that. I would agree. Mustafa, look at the fire trucks. They look like they could be fire trucks, and 2024. Excuse me. Yeah, they did not have those types of fire trucks in what year were we talking? 1872? Yeah. They did not have those types of fire trucks in 1872. Etienne, I totally agree with you. Ooh, Kurdistan is in the house. Welcome. Thomas says, the engines are too modern. Correct. I agree, Zanwar. Yeah. AI. Come on. You had one job. Make it look like 1872, not 2024. And I did not even think about the spray from the hoses. They were probably using buckets of water. And that's another reason why urban fires happened so long ago. They didn't have fire trucks. They didn't have powerful hoses to help put the fire out. They probably just had buckets of water. Okay, so this one is super sad because this happened in modern day, like 2023, the United States. It happened in Maui, which is part of the state of Hawaii. So unfortunately, in 2023, Maui experienced a severe fire that caused a lot of damage to homes and nature. The Maui fire in 2023 reminded everyone of the importance of being prepared for natural disasters. Yeah. Natural disasters. So urban fires, they can be natural disasters. If you know what lightning is, well, if lightning strikes a building and it causes an entire city to burn down, you could say that was natural. Well, but maybe humans built the buildings too close to each other. Also, sometimes people accidentally start fires. That is tragic if that happens. If somebody starts a fire on purpose or intentionally, we call that arson in English. Arson. All right. Another man-made disaster. This can be a little tricky. Mining disasters. A mine. Let's talk about what a mine is. A mine is a noun. It's a thing. Mining disasters are serious accidents in mines where miners can get hurt or die, often because of explosions or collapses. Take a look at this picture. This is a mine. A mine. They are underground and they have valuable things in there. Could be diamonds. So humans will dig under the ground so they can get these valuable things. But unfortunately, it's a dangerous job. But we also have a different kind of mine in English. Mine can be used to show a person owns something. Like, that is mine. Like, here's my phone. My is an adjective describing my phone, showing it belongs to me. But that phone is mine is another way you can say that that's your thing. It is mine. That is my water bottle. That is mine. But mine is also a place under the ground where valuable things can be found. Mining disasters. Now that you know what a mine is, let's read that one more time. Mining disasters are serious accidents in mines where miners can get hurt or die, often because of explosions or collapses. We'll talk about collapses in just a minute. But miners are people who work in mines. Miners. At least the way it's spelled there. If it's... Man, English can be so difficult, right? If it's spelled... Okay, I'll write this in the chat. If it's spelled like this, minor, that means somebody who is under 18. So a minor could work in a mine, but a minor could also be someone who is not an adult, someone who is under 18. Yeah, AI. I love AI. I love using AI to make pictures, but sometimes they mess up. Give them a couple years, they probably won't mess up anymore. Yeah. All right. Oh, thank you so much. That was very nice of you. Love you, sir. Thank you. I do have fun teaching English here. Right. We are almost done. This has been almost an hour long, but there are still 79 people watching. So let's talk about these last couple. So I'm going to talk about a couple mines that I hope I don't mispronounce. Oh yeah, we need to talk about collapse. Collapse. So collapse is a noun. Collapse is a verb. It's something that happens. It's something you do. If a mine collapses, the mine's walls fall down. If people are in the mine, that can be super dangerous. They could get trapped in that mine and not be able to get out. They might lose that oxygen we talked about. They might not be able to breathe. Here's a sentence using minor disaster or mining disaster. The mining disaster left the small town grieving for those who were lost. If somebody is grieving, they probably have had a loved one die. Maybe a close family member or a friend. If somebody is grieving, someone close to them has died. Oh, goodness. I hope I say this correctly. It's a Chinese word written in English. If I say it wrong and you are Chinese, please let me know. I apologize. The Binqihu? That can't be right. The Binqihu Collier disaster in 1942 in China was the world's deadliest mining accident, killing many miners. Over 1,500 miners lost their lives. Excuse me. So this happened in China in 1942. Very tragic. This looks like it could have happened in 1942. There are horses. There is an older looking car there. So not too bad, I guess. So I do not want to get too political, but part of the problem was that Japan controlled China at this time, and the mining wasn't that safe. So that's all I'll talk about. Now this next one, I'm nervous because I do know that there are people in France watching right now, and I can't say this in French. I will do my best to kind of say it in English, but I will mess it up. I know. I'm scared. I know exactly how you feel when you try to speak English At first, it can be quite scary. The Couriers? That's so wrong. The Couriers mine disaster in France in 1906 was the deadliest mining disaster in Europe. Almost 1,100 miners died that day. So, do I not have a picture? Oh, this one might be the one in China. And this one in 1906, this is the French one. Okay. China, France. All right. Not too bad, AI. Not too bad. Okay. Well, that is the lesson on man-made disasters. Part 1. There might be a part 2 in the future because let's face it, humans, we make a lot of mistakes. We damage the environment quite a bit. Plenty to talk about. All right. That's it. All right, that's good right there, right? Where are you going? Mine. Oh, what will you do there? Mine. Whose car is this? Mine. Yeah, English. We use the same word for different things. It can be so confusing if you are an English learner. All right, Manuel. Hey, good to see you. Long comment here. Let's see. AI could tell us who killed the former President of the United States, Kennedy. All right, 2001, A Space Odyssey. Okay, I've seen that movie there. Yeah, so you think AI could shed some light on the... I don't even think I want to say it. YouTube gets weird when you talk about certain things. So I'll just say President Kennedy. Okay, you feel my pain, right? You know how it is when you try to speak French and French is not your native language. I did speak a little Arabic. Oh, I do not have my glasses on. I'm not sure if that is Arabic or Persian. I wish I knew that flag. Let's see. Just try to find that flag here. All right, is that Egypt? Is that flag? But I learned Habibi in Arabic. Habibi, which I think means love. Love. All right, that is going to do it for the lesson. What? AI was born near there. Okay. Manual. Minor problem. Yeah. AI is not perfect. Oh, Egypt. Okay. Thank you. Egypt. All right. I must go. Thank you so much for joining me for this live session. If you're watching on replay, if you're listening to the podcast, Habibi, right? Love, I think, right? All right. It's not Egypt. Okay. It's Palestine, maybe? Palestine? All right. Etienne, Tanya, thank you. I'm just rambling now, right? I must go. But I do want to thank you all for joining. I hope you had as much fun as I did. I like teaching English. Hopefully you're learning something here. All right. Mariposa, great to see you. Hello, hello. Hope you're doing well. I'm hoping this is working. I think the last members live chat that we did during February, it didn't go out to a lot of people. It could have been my fault. It could have been YouTube's fault, but I'm just making sure that it is available to members, which it should be. I think everything's good. I think. Let me write hello in the chat. We'll see. It looks like it's good. All right. So maybe some people will join us. My internet, though, I lost power earlier this morning for no reason. I mean, it's cold, but it's not that cold. It's windy, but it's not that windy. So I'm not sure. We only lost it for a little bit, and then it came back on within seconds. But like my Wi-Fi went down, and it's still not the strongest. Yeah, it goes from being medium strength to low strength. Olivia, at least one person is able to join. How are you? Tanya, how are you? Tanya, if you join on camera, I have a question for you, because in today's live English lesson about man-made disasters, there is a train crash that happens in Germany, and I left a hint in there so that I can say it correctly, or at least the way I think it's pronounced. Eschede, I think. The Eschede train disaster that happened in Germany back in 1998. But I'm not exactly happy about the Wi-Fi connection. If I was a really good YouTuber, I would have a direct connection from my modem to my computer. But, I'm not a really good YouTuber. I'm just a medium kind of YouTuber. Not the most professional. So Tanya cannot join on camera today. Okay, but maybe you can answer my question as a real German. When I say that, Eschede, does that sound okay as an American trying to pronounce a German word? Eschede. Hope that happens. And we got to talk about like what high-speed trains are. We'll talk about derailment as well. Derailment. Kind of a fun word to say, but not a fun word to see happen. Derailment. So trains, they ride on the tracks or they ride on the rails, and a derailment is when the train comes off the tracks. And that happened back in Germany in 1998. And it's a high-speed train, and it's exactly what it sounds like. So it goes really fast. Modern train. Japan, France, I believe they still have the fastest trains in the world. Yeah, derailment. Not drillment. There's an extra syllable there. Derailment. Let's see, do I have that on the banner? Well, derailed is on there. There, derailment. But I think I have a slide for what derailment means. Yeah, a derailment is when a train comes off its tracks. Usually bad when that happens. Again, it looks like I have no or little Wi-Fi. I'm going to stop talking about that. Also, it says 0 people have joined the chat. So, what is going on today? How about this term? Snake bit. Snake bit. We use that term in English when like something is doomed to fail from the beginning. Like it just has bad luck. So maybe in Hollywood they are filming a movie, but like the lead actor breaks her leg or something like that, and then just a whole bunch of other bad luck scenarios happen after that. So I'm not sure. Is this just going to be a snake bit day? I don't know. I have a bad feeling about today's lesson. So see, what does YouTube say that we have for people in here? This is not the first time it's happened. It used to happen all the time when I tried to do members chats. I have 3 options of privacy. I have public. I think I have 4. I have public, which means everybody can see. Public means everybody is welcome. So a public park, everybody can use it. So I have public. I have unlisted. which means I can share the link. And if somebody has the link, they can see it. Then there's members, which is exactly what it sounds like. And then there's private. So, no, I did not see. Did you see the comment on Discord about the upcoming solar eclipse in Maine? No, I did not see that. But I've already purchased my... I can put that on the screen here. I was on YouTube to see the comments and stuff. All right. I see derailment. Yeah, derailment. I'll leave that on. Freddie Wolf, how's it going? Unfortunately, you pronounced it wrong. There's a word that I have to say today in English that I'm worrying about pronouncing wrong. And it's infrastructure. We'll talk about that. And if you could let me know, how does the stream look? Is it a little fuzzy or is it pretty clear? Because I keep getting a message, low internet, low Wi-Fi. All right, no, I did not see that comment. Did you see the comment on Discord about the upcoming solar eclipse in Maine? No, I didn't see it, but I've been preparing. So I bought like 10 pairs of solar eyeglasses, I guess. I don't know what we call them in English. If I do, I should do an English lesson about solar eclipses. Ooh, I know one term, umbraphile. You don't hear that very much, but an umbraphile is someone who loves eclipses. Like they travel the world to see them. And of course, in English, we have solar eclipse. When you hear the term solar, think sun. And when you hear the term lunar, think moon. So I believe it comes from the Latin, right? Luna, for moon. So no, I did not see the comment, but thank you, Tanya. Everything's clear. TGV. Yep, the fastest. That's what I've heard. Japan and France have the fastest. I have ridden on a TGV a long time ago. But yeah, so Maine, not where I live, unfortunately, in Lewiston. So I think it's like 2 days before Jamie and I leave for Brazil. But right when I get out of school, I'm going to start driving west. So I have about an hour from when I get out of school. And if I drive about an hour west, I think I will be in the path of totality. Yeah, I should probably do an English lesson on solar eclipses or eclipses in general. But I believe we say the path of totality. On maps, you might see like that large black line where, is it the sun and the moon completely align so that the moon is blocking the sun? I think that's how solar eclipses work. So yeah, I have my sunglasses or my solar glass, whatever they are, my eclipse glasses, and I'm gonna try to get into the path of totality. Where I live, it's not quite there. It's like 97% or something like that. And I'm told if you're not 100%, don't bother. So I will do that. But I think it's only going to be me, unless my daughter wants to go with me, because we're at the same school. But like my wife is 30 minutes south. My son is like 4 hours south, so he's not even close, I don't think. But yeah, so I'm going to be going, and I may just stop on the side of the road, but I'll look up and hopefully, how many minutes? I don't know. It's about a month away. It's about 5 weeks away, right? Is it April 8th, I think. Yeah, today is March 2nd. So you must at least do a members video about the eclipse. I should, right? At least a members, but probably it could be helpful for everyone. So if you want to talk about an eclipse in English, and maybe I will have some footage of the eclipse. But I think if I release I don't know. So I think it's sadly maybe one of the last times in my life where I see a total eclipse. Sadly. I remember not long ago, my kids were young. So it's within the last 16 years. It may have been like 7 or 8 years ago. I remember we were in a Walmart parking lot and we looked up and there was like kind of an eclipse. It wasn't a total eclipse. But I think for the last time, man, in Maine, I was in elementary school. So I was like 6 or 7, maybe something like that. Yeah, maybe I should do a whole English lesson on like comets too. I remember like there's in English we say Halley's Comet, which I believe visits Earth every 76 years. I vaguely remember. It's a good way to say like you kind of remember a little bit. I vaguely remember Halley's Comet. I think I was in elementary school for that too. Hey Siri, when was the last time Halley's Comet visited Earth? Let's see if Siri knows. Yeah, 1986. So I was 11. So it'll be back in 2061. Which means if I'm still around, I'll be in my like 80s. Right? I think so. No, I'll be in my late 70s. So it's a chance. There's a chance if I have any idea what's going on in my late 70s. You know, I was thinking about this too. Since nobody is joining on camera, I'll just keep talking. How about that? Also, I think I'm starting to come down with something, which means I might be getting a little sick. That's fun. Yesterday, I went to bed at like 6:30 at night. I don't believe I made it until 7 p.m. Yeah, I just went to bed. I just crashed. It's another way to say you just went to sleep and you slept hard. Man, I crashed at about 6:30 last night. I don't even know what I was saying. What was I talking about? Oh, darn. Well, it shows that there are no people watching anyway, so I know there are people in here. But what was I talking about? Lessons on UFOs. Yeah. Do they exist? Well, I guess by definition, in English, they do exist because all that means is unidentified flying object. So when you look up in the air and you don't know what it is, well, it's a UFO. But if you're talking about UFOs with intelligent life inside, that's a different story. Oh boy. I've been thinking about this a lot too. Not to scare anybody, but in English we have something called the Fermi paradox. So in your native language, you might have, I'm sure you have something similar. It might be called something else. But the Fermi paradox basically states there are so many places in the universe for life. But where is it? Why are we not visited by intelligent life? Maybe life is just so unique, we are the only ones. And if that is the case, did the other intelligent civilizations do something that made them disappear? For instance, we have nuclear weapons. We could destroy the planet a few times over. Are we doomed to just destroy ourselves? So if you are as old as I am, which many of you are, and you grew up in the 1970s, 80s, definitely 60s, nuclear war was a very real possibility. We also have something called MAD, when it comes to nuclear weapons in English. Mutually assured destruction, which means, let's just say the US and Russia, because we have the most. But let's say there's some miscommunication, or maybe one country wants to destroy the other country. Mutually assured destruction means that both countries will be destroyed because they will just start, lobbing weapons back at each other. So that's one reason why maybe there is no life. They've developed weapons and eventually they kill themselves with these weapons. You could look at the environment. Well, I don't know. Will we eventually make this planet inhospitable? It's a very big English word, but it just means not good for life. Or in 2024, you can start thinking about like AI. Do other civilizations create something like AI that, for whatever reason, makes humans, no longer around or whatever? I don't know. 2080? No, I think it wasn't it was it 2081, wasn't it? Yeah. 2008, is it? Yeah, it was 2081. So I got a chance. Another thing, oh no, I think that's what it is. Thank you, Tanya. Sorry that you're not doing well, but I think I'm also struggling with allergies. That's what I think it is. It's allergies because I don't have any real symptoms. But it's like, a little scratchy throat. When you're sick, you might say that. If your throat hurts a little bit, like, oh, my throat's a little scratchy. I'm sniffing a little bit, but it's just like not a lot of energy that I have. So, yeah, I don't know if this members chat is going out to everyone, but I'm glad that Freddie's here and Olivia's here and Tanya is here. So that's good. Excuse me. It says there are 5 people. Maybe it's a bad time for members. Or maybe just like last time, it did not go out to everyone for some reason. So, eager to learn. How are you? Welcome. Since I have nobody to chat with, I am just kind of rambling. So I'm trying to teach English at the same time, but also just kind of saying whatever comes into my mind. Freddie. Fortunately, in the 1960s, the red phone existed between the U.S. and the USSR to avoid the Third World War. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I've done a little bit of research on, in English, we call it the Cuban Missile Crisis. So you had President Kennedy on one side and Nikita Khrushchev on the other side. And the Soviet Union wanted to place nuclear missiles in Cuba. Cuba was friendly towards the Soviet Union. And the US didn't like that too much. Yeah, I won't get too political. But I think I won't get too political, but the same thing's kind of happening in Russia, right? Like they see, NATO creeping in. So but yeah, the Cuban Missile Crisis, it seemed like we were really close to ending the world. The story I heard was President Kennedy and his brother Robert Kennedy, who was Attorney General. I think Robert Kennedy could have been a great U.S. president, but he was unfortunately assassinated before. He was assassinated in 1968. Sirhan Sirhan is the guy that assassinated him. So Kennedy and his advisors, his brother was one of them. Back in was it 62? I think the Cuban Missile Crisis happened, October. And Khrushchev and his group, they were trying to find a way to make everybody happy. But the U.S. said, hey, nuclear weapons can't happen in Cuba. But the U.S. had nuclear weapons in Turkey, and they were aimed at Khrushchev and the USSR. And so there were a couple telegrams sent back and forth. Khrushchev sent a telegraph saying, telegraph, not telegram. What was it? No, telegram in English. Sent a telegram. No email back then, right? Sent a telegram saying, okay, if you promise to never invade Cuba, we will take out the nuclear weapons. And so Robert Kennedy and John F. Kennedy were like, okay, can we do that? Can we do that? And so as they're all talking, another telegram comes through saying, and you also have to take out your nuclear weapons in Turkey. And so that changed things. They were like, oh no, can we do that? And I heard that Robert Kennedy came up with the idea, what if we just respond to the first message? What if we just say we promise never to invade Cuba, you take out the weapons, and we just ignore the Turkey one? And so that's what the U.S. did. They sent back, hey, we promise we'll never invade Cuba. And the whole Cuban Missile Crisis was averted. It was put to bed. It did not happen, luckily. So, Tanya, allergies infect my skin, unfortunately. I don't think that happens to me. I don't think. But this morning, the last couple mornings, my skin has been very itchy. But then I put on lotion after my shower and it goes away. I think it might be our new bed sheets. Because if you saw the members video last week, whoa, we got a new bed. We got a king size bed. We moved rooms and everything. So now we're sleeping in a king size bed. We have so much room. It's great. But I think the sheets, I don't know if they were washed in something that would affect my skin. Because sometimes the detergent, so those are different from my seasonal allergies though. So I don't know what it is, but that bed is really nice. And we got some new pillows. So I'm sleeping really well, but it's just, I don't know, it's been kind of warm here. So I don't know if, some of the things that I have allergies to, if they're starting to sprout or whatever. All right, I hope this is beneficial to people watching. I don't know. I've kind of been talking about a lot of different things. The Fermi paradox, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Please leave a comment to the 3 or 4 who are watching right now. Anything else you would like me to talk about? Since we still have about, I think, 5 minutes until... we have exactly 5 minutes. So I might need to go in about 2 minutes. So, and I was thinking about maybe trying to live stream to Instagram for the first time ever. Ooh, do you know this word in English? Simultaneously. Whew. Big word there. Simultaneously. At least 2 things happening at once. So a lot of times I will live stream to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. Or you could say simultaneously. But for some reason, when I tried to live stream to Facebook for the last couple days, I've been getting an error. So luckily it's over here for me. But when I have a warning about the internet, that has not come up. But I can't stream to Facebook for some reason. I don't know. So that's why I thought maybe, it's snake bit. Be careful. You could be lost in your king size bed. I love it. Every night, I sleep with an AirPod in, and I listen to like a very boring podcast. Somebody just talking in a low voice. Maybe what I'm doing now, but it's like 6 hours long. So, but I lose my AirPods sometimes in my bed. That's the only problem. But it's worth it. You know, if I have a hard time finding my AirPod case, it's like, that's okay. I will risk it for a really good night's sleep. All right, I have 3 minutes before I need to go get ready. So I am going to go now. But thank you to the people who joined. Olivia, Olivia, change into a king size bed. Oh man, it's the best, right? But they're so expensive. It took us a long time to save up for the king size bed. The queen size beds are expensive. The sheets that you put on, they're expensive. The bed frames, maybe I should do an English lesson on parts of the bed or whatever. But yeah, I think it's worth it. Yeah, I'm glad you got your king size bed, Olivia. Now you can never move though. You can never move from the house. When we moved into this house, there was a queen size bed in our room, and it's just so big that it can't leave the room. It was built in that room, and I don't know. I think it would be really hard to get rid of. So, Olivia, you can never move again. All right, Tanya, great seeing you. I'm going to go so I can get ready for the live stream. All right, thank you so much for being members. Maybe you're watching on replay. I don't know. Thank you, though. See you later. Welcome. We are now live here on YouTube. And I think in a minute, we will also be live on Instagram. We'll see how this goes. But welcome to this live English lesson on man-made disasters. Oh, yeah. This should be a fun one. We are going to talk about train derailments. We are going to talk about bridges collapsing. We are going to talk about dams failing. It should be a lot of fun. No, this will not be the most fun subject to talk about, but it's an important one. If you are wanting to learn English, sometimes you have to talk about the bad things too. So we will be talking about some pretty awful things, but I think it will really help you improve your English. So a few members are here. We just had a members chat, and it was good to chat with some of you. Tanya is here. Oh, and later on in the lesson, there are going to be a few words that I am nervous about pronouncing, and I already know I am going to pronounce one of the German words wrong. There's also a Japanese word I'm scared about, and there's an English word, infrastructure. I hope I say it correctly. Infrastructure. I think that was pretty good. Yulia's here. Good to see you. Michael, he is also from Germany. I'm sorry. I probably will say one of your words wrong. Harry's here. He's from Indonesia. And it looks like France is also in the house. Zazadu, 69. Interesting number there. I wonder why you picked that one. All right. Welcome. Mode. Hope you're doing well. All right. Hopefully the internet. Oh, no. Hafayez. Tsunami. We do have that one in English. I'm glad you mentioned that. So tsunami would be a natural disaster. So one that humans can't control. Today we are going to be talking about man-made disasters. So for one reason or another, it is the fault of the humans. It is their fault. They are the reason that this happened. So we'll talk about dams. You know, if dams were never created, dam failures wouldn't happen. Humans created dams. Sometimes they fail because of natural reasons, but we'll get that. We'll get that. All right. Freddie, how have you been in the last 5 minutes? Not bad. I was trying to get the live stream going on Instagram, so we'll see. Hopefully it's working. We'll see. Okay. All right. Let's get to it here because you're here to Hafez, no problem. Tsunami. I can say that though. Let's do it. Okay, Isabel, welcome. A little easier for me to pronounce. Fafa, hope you're doing well. All right, so let's get into this live lesson. Oh, you know what I didn't do? I don't have my slides ready. There they are. We're ready to do it. All right, so man-made disasters, part 2. There is a part 1. I will link to that in the description. But here in the thumbnail, you can see there is a car going off a bridge, which looks like it has failed. We'll talk about that in a minute. All right, the first thing I would like to talk about are dams. Now, be careful. Dam, it can be a bad word. It can be a swear word. It can be a curse word in English. But when you are swearing, the dam has an N at the end. All of the dams here will not end with an N. They will look like that. Dams. So if you don't know what a dam is, let's talk about that first. A dam is like a big wall built across a river to stop water from flowing. This makes the water level go up behind the wall, creating a large pool or lake. So, and we'll talk about why some of these dams are built. So there's a pretty good picture of what a dam looks like in English. You can see that big wall, and behind it is probably a river that has been stopped, and now you have more water behind it. But why do people build dams? Well, in English, we say people build dams to make electricity or to store water that towns and cities can use. So if a town or a city experiences something called a drought is when there is little or no rain, they can have extra rain water. They can have extra water. We call that a reservoir. Another English word that is very French, a reservoir. So dams are built sometimes to create a reservoir. And a reservoir is a large natural or man-made lake used as a source of water supply. So dams, when they work correctly, can be really good. They can be really beneficial. They can be really helpful. But what we are talking about today are disasters. So when things go wrong, dams failing, which leads to flooding and destruction. See, do I have a picture of some destruction? This looks nice, actually. This looks more like a reservoir where you have some extra water if you need it. But when a dam fails, it can cause a flood. So sometimes floods are natural. They can't be helped. Maybe too much rain falls. Can you really blame humans for that? I don't know. If you believe in climate change, maybe. But rain is a natural thing. Humans don't make that happen. But a flood is when a large amount of water goes in places that it shouldn't be. Flood can also be a verb. If you've been with the channel for about a year and a half, you might remember my basement flooded. So we have flooded can be a verb. Flood is a noun. Flood is a noun. Flooded is a verb for the past tense, but flood can also be a verb. Don't you love English? We're going to talk about engineers later on, and they can be like two different jobs. So, last winter, back in December, parts of my town flooded. There was a flood in parts of my town. So you have it as a noun and you have it as a verb. Next thing I would like to talk about in English is something we call infrastructure. Infrastructure. So a dam would be part of infrastructure. Bridges, which we will talk about later, part of infrastructure. So you might hear this word when you hear man-made disasters. What is infrastructure? Well, it's the basic stuff like roads, airports, bridges, buildings that a town or country needs to run smoothly. So this just makes life easier. Infrastructure. So for you to get to work in the morning, if you go over a bridge, that's really good. You don't have to wait on a boat. You don't have to get out of your car and swim across the river. Infrastructure makes towns, countries run more smoothly. If your country has really good infrastructure, it probably has smooth roads. Infrastructure. How about this? Infrastructure also includes buildings like schools and hospitals and large projects for water and electricity. So like those dams we talked about earlier, they help life run more smoothly. But when life doesn't run smoothly, if your town has a dam that is holding back water, well, one thing that could happen is that dam gets breached. That dam could get breached. Breaching means a break or gap in a dam leading to a huge loss of water. And if you look at that picture right now, that dam has been breached. For whatever reason, maybe it's because people made it wrong, but that dam has been breached. There is water that is rushing through the dam. And it looks like, are those cars on top of the dam? I think so. So you can imagine if there is a town or city downriver, it is probably going to be flooded. It is probably going to look like that, unfortunately. What about this? When water breaches a dam, it flows over or breaks the dam and can cause a flood. Yeah, that's not good. And if the flood is bad enough, the town might have to be evacuated. There might be an evacuation. So this is another one of those words that sounds differently if we use it as a verb or a noun. The town has to be evacuated. That is the verb. An evacuation was issued for the town. Well, what is an evacuation? It's when people are forced to leave their homes because of a dangerous situation. Take a look at this. That looks dangerous. Now, of course, I asked AI, create an image where people are evacuating. And this is what they showed. Yeah, that wave is that a wave or are those clouds? Either way, if that is water, that's bad. If those are clouds, it looks like that town has a very big storm coming. It's been a little while. I would like to check the chat. We have been learning English for a while. At least I hope you have been learning English. I don't think... Oh, it is. Hey, Instagram is working. Looks like there are 73 people watching. I hope you are learning some English over there. But if you would like to comment and you are watching on Instagram, I cannot always see the comments. So come over to YouTube. It is American English with Brent, just like my Instagram. YouTube is just easier. It's just everything is in like one place. I don't have to go to another page. So let's see what is going on in the chat. Looks like Sita dropped a super chat. Thank you so much. I will get to that in a minute. Just want to make sure. Yulia, if I didn't say hi. Michael, Tanya. Looks like some good chats are going on in English. Let's see. No, really? I have not heard about that, Isabel. There's an accident on a bridge with a truck. Later on, we are going to talk about a train that made a bridge collapse. So hopefully everybody is all right in that. Mode, you get flooded if you don't build a dam. If you build one, though, it can fail. Whoa, Freddie said a bad word. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. So there is a little swearing there, a little cursing, but it is a good term or a good phrase to know in English. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. Caught between a rock and a hard place. 6 to 1, half a dozen to another. Those three sayings all mean basically, if you do something, it could go badly. If you don't do something, it could also go badly. Mode, very clever. Love it. Oh, geez. Why do beavers build dams? Well, that is a very natural thing. And I think humans and beavers build dams for similar reasons. But I'm not sure. If I ever do a lesson on beavers and dams, I'll have to do a little bit of research before. Yeah. And I know Tanya has had flooding in her city about the same time my city had flooding. So, the dams in our city got really weak. The water let go during the flooding. Okay, so maybe the most recent flooding was caused by the dam. Mahmoud, how are you? Welcome. Yeah, see? A little sniff there. Sorry. Mo did swear earlier. Sita is a moderator, so if she chooses to kick you out, Mode, I can't do anything about it. And I wouldn't do anything about it. So if Sita decides to kick you out, well, maybe I could bring you back for the next one, but 60 to 70 years ago, they didn't even allow damn to be said on TV shows. Now kids say it on TV without even being censored. Oh, yeah. Potty mouths. It's another way to say somebody swears a lot is that they have a potty mouth. A lot of younger children do. All right, Olivia. Some dams could happen. because of man-made dams collapse. It is true. Now, you know what? Sita says she never acted like a moderator. Maybe she should. To be honest, maybe because my channel is so small, everybody here is just really nice, really cordial. So I haven't seen a problem yet. Too bad. Konstantin, hope you're doing well. Привет, 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 друг. I think I said hello, friend. And actually, he says привет. Yeah, yesterday, I do have 2 students in my class now from Ukraine, but they choose to speak Russian. Both of them do, even though they're young. And so one guy has been here for 6 months. His English is pretty good now. And then the other guy just arrived this week. So we were having a little fun in class, me embarrassing myself with how I spoke. Sita, thank you so much. She left I would say a rather large super chat. Thank you so much. I have a little something for you here.
Oh, thank you so much for the super chat.
That is very kind of you. We will be seeing each other in about a month. This week's lesson that will come out in the middle of the week is actually not going to be a lesson, but I will be talking about the places I will go and the things I will do over the next couple months, because it's going to be kind of busy. Just in case anybody would like to know. Members probably already know, but Mariposa, yes, we are like a little family here. Very nice people, for sure. Eager Beaver, you might hear that sometimes. Look at that. Did you know that I was going to say that? Or maybe, is that a new comment? Okay. Have you ever had Russian students in your school, Kimvek? I don't think so. Maybe. But this year, I just know this year we've had 4 students from Ukraine. 2 have moved to another city in my state, and 2 I have currently in class. So don't think any Russian students. At least if I have had them, it hasn't been in a while. Don't remember. All right. Sita, do what you need to do. And it looked like it was there for a minute. Did Sita? Yeah, here it is. Sita, thank you so much. I don't know who got that gift, but it looks like Sita gifted a membership for a month to somebody. So whoever that person was, I did not see who got it, but
Oh, thank you so much for the
New member. Make sure you check the members tab for the Discord, the members chat, and the bonus videos.
yeah, I'm just checking through the chat to see if it tells me who the new member is. Kazakhstan's in the house. Welcome. Oh, it did. So it says Anuat. Very nice. Very nice. So Sita, thank you so much. Anuat, welcome. If you, I don't know how it works. Is it a gold membership? So if you were gifted a gold membership, at least once a month, we do members chats, and gold members can come on camera and talk if they would like. If you are a silver member, we have the Discord. Gold members get that too. But if you are a bronze member, once a week, you get a bonus English lesson. So if you would like to become a member, there is a link somewhere at the top, I think. So Sita, thank you so much for that. That is very kind of you. Mega, what's going on? Alessandro, welcome. He also lives in Brazil. All right, let's do this. Back to the lesson. Where were we? Where were we? We were talking about... Takes me a second to get set up. that was the picture. Oh, yeah, we were talking about evacuations, right? So let's talk about a couple floods. Both of these happened in the United States. This first one right here, kind of a famous flood. Lots of people died, unfortunately. The Johnstown flood in 1889. The South Fork Dam failed. So there's that word, failed. It's another way to say it didn't work well. Failed. Just like you can fail an English test. I hope that never happens. If you watch my videos each week, it should not happen. But dams can also fail. That means whoever built it didn't do it correctly. Or there was just so much water that it didn't work. So the Johnstown flood in 1889, the South Fork Dam failed, releasing 20 million tons of water that destroyed Johnstown, Pennsylvania, killing more than 2,200 people. Or you could say 2,200 people. That is a lot. Very sad. Just in case, because I teach American English, that probably means if you're on this channel, you like to learn a little bit about the United States. And since this dam failure happened in Pennsylvania, let me show you a couple images of where Pennsylvania is. We have 50 states in the United States. One of them is Pennsylvania. It looks like that. AI made this for me. Again, AI cannot spell, but that looks like a pretty good image of the state of Pennsylvania. Now, this one is from Google, and it's a little better. It will show you where in the country this is located. So in the map, you can see New York City is there. So Pennsylvania isn't all that far from New York City. And below the bottom part of the map, you can see that Washington, D.C. is there. And the biggest city in Pennsylvania is called Philadelphia. Philadelphia. We have another dam failure right here. The St. Francis Dam in 1928. This happened in California. Its failure resulted in a huge flood that claimed the lives of at least 431 people. So when you're talking about disasters and you see the number of people who died as a result, when they say at least, it means there might have been more. They just weren't identified. And a lot of times in a flood, it's not fun to think about, but bodies could be swept out into the ocean. Swept out. I have talked about that English phrasal verb before, but not fun to think about. So we mentioned California. Let's take a look at this. I think I have two images of California for you. We would say that California is on the west coast. Pennsylvania is on the east coast. So California is closer to countries like China, Japan, Korea, and places like Pennsylvania are closer to Europe and Africa. Way out west, Los Angeles is the biggest city in California. Two other cities you may have heard of are San Diego and San Francisco. And this is what AI drew. Again, I think it's pretty accurate. And you can see in the left-hand bottom corner is a California bear. And that looks a lot like California's flag. Each state in the United States also has its own flag. All right. that is it on dam failures. So now we get to talk about train accidents. Oh yeah, more fun stuff. So not so much water with train accidents. I'm sure you all know what a train is in English. It might have been one of the first words you learned. Trains ride on tracks, or they ride on rails, because we will be talking about derailments soon. Train accidents will be the next main. Let me read that again. Train accidents will be the next man-made disaster we discuss. Let's bring up a picture here. Oh yeah. More destruction. Train disasters. You can see there is a fire. There's smoke coming from the train. It looks like there are some emergency vehicles nearby trying to help those who were hurt. Yeah. One thing that could happen in a train accident would be a collision. A collision. That is the noun, a collision. Trains could collide. That is the verb. A collision is when two trains or a train and another object come together with force. Now, luckily, trains colliding, it doesn't happen too often. There's pretty good technology to make sure that two trains are not on the same track at a time. But you can imagine when it does happen, it could be really bad. It could be catastrophic. It's a good adjective to know. It's like really, really bad. Catastrophic. But sometimes, and this wouldn't make our list of bad train accidents, a car could get stuck on the tracks and the train could collide with that car. I have a very good friend who is let's talk about that in a minute. Oh, here's another bad train accident that AI made. But let's talk about the person who drives the train. You will hear two words in English. You might hear engineer or you might hear conductor. So an engineer or a conductor is a person who drives the train. And as I was saying earlier, I have a good friend, one of my best friends from high school, and his job now is he's a conductor of a train. He works in Boston. And he tells me that a lot of times trains will collide with deer or moose. That is one of the most common collisions that trains will have. Luckily, not too many cars and not too many people. And definitely, I know he has never collided with another train. What about this one? I want to make sure that my pictures line up here. A freight train collided with the passenger train. So there is collide used in a sentence, but now there are two different kinds of trains. A freight train does not have people on it. A freight train probably has goods. They have products. They have cargo. They have things people could buy. Passenger trains, those are trains that carry people. My friend who works in Boston, he now drives passenger trains. When he first became an engineer, he drove freight trains. So I think if you are a passenger train conductor, you might get paid a little more money because let's face it, if something goes wrong, people could get hurt. if you drive a freight train, well, there's probably a lot of money involved. If you collide with something else and it's your fault, there could be a lot of products lost, a lot of money lost, but not a lot of life. All right, let's go back to the chat. When we come back, we'll talk about derailment. Derailment. All right, here. Where were we in the chat? Yeah, it's pretty sad when you think about that. Olivia, she says, I'm so sorry to hear there were so many victims. Yeah, even though it took place in, 1889, the one in Pennsylvania, it's like over 2,000 people. It's a lot of people. It's a horrible disaster. Oh gosh. Yeah, Mary Posa, has there ever been a disaster in the state of Maine? Yeah, unfortunately, if you've been with the channel for a few months, we did have a mass shooting, which is another man-made disaster. If I do a part 3, I think that's when we will talk about wars and shootings, things like that. I don't know. But yeah, we've been lucky in my state, but over just in the last year, we've had flooding and we've had another man-made disaster, which we would call a mass shooting, which is not great. All right. I see some people chatting. Tanya, very kind. Thank you so much for the super chat. I have a little something for you.
Oh, thank you so much for the super chat.
So Tanya says, I really love this lesson. Thank you also for the members chat today. We always learn so much more besides the actual topic. Keep it up, Brent. Thank you. Sometimes I ramble on too much about other things. I try to stay on topic, but sometimes I wander a little bit. I think today I'm doing pretty good about sticking to the topic. But Tanya, thank you so much. Very generous, Tanya. Very generous. All right. Bangladesh is in the house. Great country there. Mahdi, how are you? Hello, everyone. I come from Insta. Oh, it has so many. You saw on Instagram? Yeah, Instagram is like blowing up for some reason. They're on YouTube, I think I have 28,000 followers. On Instagram, it's like 400. It's over 440,000 followers. So yeah, thank you, Instagram. How many? 400. You can't see that. 448,000 followers. Kind of crazy. Thank you so much, Mahdi. All right. Did I miss anything? Michael, another super chat. Thank you. Here you go.
Oh, thank you so much for the super chat.
Oh no, hopefully Michael is still here. But Michael just said, just want to say thank you. I have to go back to work in a couple minutes and watch the lesson on replay. Have a great weekend. Michael, don't work too hard. You'll hear that in English. If a friend has to go to work and they say, hey, I got to go to work, you can say, hey, don't work too hard. I'm sure their boss doesn't want to hear that, but yeah, hey, don't work too hard. That's not about man-made disasters. Little bonus there. Yeah, Mahdi, thank you so much. Let me just check Instagram. I have to go over to the other page, but hello, Instagram. Oh, somebody over there is saying, hey, please subscribe to my channel. Can I block them on here? No, probably not. That's the great thing about YouTube also is that you can, hello. I'll just say hello over there. But yeah, Instagram is not as good as YouTube for for pretty much anything. YouTube is just a little bit easier. But hopefully everybody over there is doing well on Instagram. All right. Shall we get back to the English lesson? Just so many things going on with YouTube and Instagram. All right. Actually, I'm going to end the Instagram live stream. So if you are watching on Instagram and you would like to continue with this lesson, we still have to talk about collapsing bridges and train derailments. Head over to YouTube, American English with Brent. Thank you all on Instagram for joining. All right. See you later. All right. YouTube. I can now focus better. Focus. All right, back to the lesson. What did we? I forgot. What did I say we had to start with? Engineer. Did we talk about that? Derailment. That's where we ended, right? Derailment. I think I have a picture for you too. Yep, that's a derailment. I have all the pictures lined up with all of the sentences. Here we go. A derailment. A derailment is when a train comes off its tracks. So the thing a train rides on is often called the railroad tracks or just the tracks. But sometimes you will hear it called the rails. The rails. And that's where the word derailment comes from. And maybe it happens because of a collision, but it's when the train comes off its tracks. Here we go there. I'm going to leave this picture up. If you ever hear fatalities in English when talking about disasters, it's another way to say somebody died. Fatalities are deaths that happen because of an accident. So in the picture, you can see that the train has derailed. It looks like there may have been some cars involved. Right at the front of the picture, we would call that a stretcher. That thing that looks like it could move a body on wheels. We call that a stretcher. And then all of the other white things on the ground, we might say they are covered with sheets, or maybe they are in body bags. So definitely not fun to think about. But if you ever have to talk about deaths, a fatality is when someone dies. Maybe they had a fatal heart attack. It's a heart attack that caused them to die. If you're ever reading the news, a fatality is when somebody died. A casualty is when somebody died. And it also includes people who have gotten hurt. So fatalities are only people who died. Casualties are people who died and also people who got hurt. Hopefully that helps for the next time you are listening to the news. How about this? Got a sentence for you. He suffered a fatal accident when the train collided with his car on the tracks. So I wanted to include that sentence because it talks about some of the things we've already talked about in the lesson. He suffered a fatal accident when the train collided with his car on the tracks. All right. Talk about a couple disasters that happened around the world. I apologize. I will not say this correctly. This happened in Japan. I'm nervous. Amagasaki. Amagasaki. If you are from Japan, tell me, how did I do? Amagasaki rail crash. This happened in Japan, and it happened in 2005. So pretty recently, 2005. A commuter train derailed and collided with an apartment building, resulting in 106 deaths and more than 550 injuries. So you could also say 106 fatalities. I'm not good at math, but if you add those two numbers up, that would be the number of casualties. 656. Please check my math. I'm an English teacher, not a math teacher. So another way to say that is 106 fatalities and 556 casualties. I thought I wanted to say something else about that, but let's make that picture a little bigger. I mean, just awful. Oh yes, commuter train. That's one type of train we haven't talked about. So a commuter train is a type of passenger train. So it has people on it. But if it's a commuter train, it's mostly for people going to work and back. So a commuter train would only be a train in like one city, probably. Some commuter trains in New York City, our biggest city, will also go to places like New Jersey and just outside of the city. But a commuter train is mostly for people going to work and coming home from work. All right, I already know I will not say this correctly. So Tanya, Michael, everyone else in Germany, I apologize. I looked this up and I thought I was pronouncing it correctly. Tanya told me in the members chat, no, not right. And I even left a little note for myself. Can you see it? Eskid. So the Eskid train disaster, this happened in Germany, and it happened on June 3rd, 1998. The high-speed train derailment resulted in 101 fatalities and over 100 injuries. So super sad. People on their way to work, maybe on vacation, and there was a problem on the train. And it ended up killing over 100 people. This was the deadliest high-speed train accident in history. Now, I've talked about high-speed trains, but I haven't explained it. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a train that goes really fast. So a commuter train is not going to be a high-speed train. And I believe in Japan and France, those two countries have the fastest trains in the world. The TGV, right? All right. And this will lead us into our next man-made disaster, which is bridges collapsing. So what made the train disaster in Germany so bad is that it caused a bridge to collapse. And you can see this in the picture. Now there are trains all over the place. This is what AI thought this disaster looked like. The Eskid disaster in Germany. Don't think it had quite that many trains. But you can see that there is a bridge that collapsed. The bridge is no longer there. When we talk about bridges collapsing, and in the picture there, you can see a bridge. They mostly go over water. Bridges are great for trains or people or cars and trucks to cross a body of water. But sometimes bridges can fatigue. Fatigue is a great word to know in English. It's another way to say tired. But bridges can also become fatigued. Take a look. Fatigued means getting weaker because of too much use. As cars and trucks use the bridge, it will fatigue over time. And if you are really, really sick and you don't have any energy, maybe you haven't had enough water or enough liquid, you could feel fatigued. So it's almost like really, really, really tired. Also, if you are lifting weights, if you are working out, your muscles can become fatigued because you use them so much. How about this? Don't think I have a picture of fatigued people, but people can become fatigued too. It's like really, really tired. Fatigued. All right. This is a little confusing. Oh, actually, I do have a picture of fatigued. Here are a bunch of people who look fatigued. You can see these people. Maybe you feel fatigued at the end of a long work day. Yeah, some of these people are yawning. Thank you, AI, for drawing all of these people who look fatigued. But I also wanted to talk about another type of people, and these are engineers. And what can make this so difficult is that earlier in the lesson, we talked about engineers are people who drive trains, also conductors. But engineers can also design bridges. Come on, English. Why do you have to be so difficult? One word for two very different types of jobs. Engineers are people who design bridges. Sometimes they get things wrong. But engineers are also people who drive trains. Doesn't make any sense. If somebody is designing a building, they might be called an engineer, but they're probably called an architect in English. They're probably an architect. Engineers build bridges for the most part. Also, dams, like we talked about earlier, I would say engineers might also design and build dams. Hopefully that helps. So, an inspection. Think about bridges. Think about dams. Every so often, they should get an inspection to make sure they are not becoming fatigued. What is an inspection? It's when people look closely at something to make sure it's okay. So hopefully we won't have any bridges collapsing, because during an inspection, the inspectors, those are the people who inspect things, the inspectors will find places where the bridge is failing before it is a complete disaster. In that picture, I also have a car. So at least where I live, one time a year, I have to take my car in to get it inspected, just to make sure there aren't any problems. And it's not because I want to do it, it's because it's the law. And on my front windshield, I will get an inspection sticker to say that my car has been inspected and that it is safe. All right, let's check the chat here. Remind me to go back to the bridge disaster in Washington. That's where we will start next. Okay? All right. Yeah, I hope none of these pictures ever become real. Tragic picture. Okay, Tanya. See, in 2006, a serious train accident occurred in my neighborhood on test tracks with a new magnetic levitation train. There were 23 fatalities? That did not come up in my research. Maybe, 23 deaths was not enough. But let's talk about what Tanya said, because she said some pretty difficult English words. I think some pretty advanced words here. So a test track, it's exactly what it sounds like. It was a new kind of track. They were testing it out. Magnets? Do you know what those are? They're two things. They have what we call in English poles. Sometimes they are attracted. Sometimes they repel. Magnets. It just depends on which pole is facing each other. Levitation, that means it's just off the ground a little bit. It's like flying, but like really low to the ground, maybe that far off the ground. Interesting. I'm definitely going to look that up when we get done with this lesson. Wow, I did not know we had levitating trains. German engineering. You will hear that in English. German engineering, it's some of the best in the world. German engineering. Saru, first time watching a live video. Well, thank you. Welcome. Glad you're here. Ahmad, hope you're doing well. Isabel, in France, we've had some accidents. Oh no, because bridges are fatiguing. And I know in France, you pay a lot of taxes. So that tax money should be going to bridge inspections. See, there have been a couple bridges in Maine within the last 5 years that they've had to temporarily close. So not permanent. Permanent would be forever. Temporary means for a short period of time. But because of inspectors finding places on the bridge that had fatigued, the bridge had to be temporarily closed. When we had flooding back in December, there were quite a few bridges in my state that were closed. And the last bridge just opened last week or 2 weeks ago. I'm recording this in March. So they had to fix it because of the flooding to make sure it was safe. Love it. When our train company attempted a speed record in my area, so in English we would say TGV, but I like the French way of saying it. Is it TGV? TGV? Oh gosh. Derailed and killed some kids inside the train. Oh. Man, that is sad. I mean, anytime anybody dies, right? It's pretty sad, but then kids, innocent kids. Oh, that's awful. Hello. I don't even dare pronounce your name, but welcome. Olivia. Yeah, they should be done regularly for safety. Have we talked about buildings collapsing? Nasran? Good to see you again. We haven't. That might be for part 3. The only time have we talked about it yet? Yeah, the apartment building in Japan that collapsed. But no, we could definitely talk about buildings, maybe for part 3. Abdi, hope you're doing well. All right, should we get back to it? Yep. Trucks and cars going over the bridge every day. It will cause the bridge to fatigue. It will get tired. We have a few more to talk about. This thing. Tacoma. This is in the state of Washington. We'll talk about that in a minute. You can look this up on YouTube. It's pretty famous, even though you can see down below, it happened in 1940, but there were cameras capturing what happened. And this is all the fault of the engineers. So it's the people who designed the bridge. They are the people who caused this to happen. Good news. No people die in this bridge collapse, but a dog does. You can look it up. It's crazy. It's because of the wind. A little wind starts the bridge to rock back and forth, and it just gets so big that it will eventually collapse. All right, this bridge, it's called the Tacoma Narrows Bridge. It happened in 1940. This bridge in Washington, USA, moved a lot in the wind and finally fell apart. Engineers designed the bridge wrong. Okay, I also want to talk about suspension bridge. In English, we would call this type of bridge a suspension bridge because you can see the cables that are going from the tower down below. It's called a suspension bridge. And in 1940, this was a new kind of bridge. Not all of them worked out well. One of the most famous suspension bridges in the United States is in California, in the city of San Francisco, and it's called the Golden Gate Bridge. Very old bridge, a suspension bridge. That bridge worked. It's been around for a while. Let's talk about Washington, though. This can be confusing even to some like Americans. Washington State is not the same as Washington, D.C. Washington State is out on the West Coast, close to California. There's one state in between Washington and California, and we call it Oregon. Some people call it Oregon. But Washington looks like that. And I can make it a little bigger with this Google map. So you can see the biggest city in Washington is called Seattle. Vancouver is up there, part of Canada. And down below here is Portland. But that is Portland, Oregon. Where I live in Maine, our biggest city is also Portland. But Portland, Oregon, that's the bigger of the two Portlands. Okay, going back to that Tacoma Bridge disaster, luckily, nobody died. But there was a dog stuck in the car when the bridge collapsed. Yeah, so the bridge started swaying back and forth. There were cars on the bridge. And one car, if you look up the video, there's a car on the bridge. Everybody got out, but the poor dog was left inside. So you can take a look at that bridge if you would like. Another bridge, another suspension bridge. This is called the Silver Bridge in 1967. This is a bridge between West Virginia and Ohio, also in the United States. This bridge broke and fell because of a tiny problem in one part. Poor engineering. So again, man-made disaster. This is the fault of people. The Silver Bridge was a suspension bridge that connected West Virginia and Ohio over the Ohio River. I think I have a picture. Yeah. So we're back on the East Coast now. And you can see in the middle is the state of West Virginia. Not too far from Philadelphia. And then we have Ohio. Right in the middle of the country, really. Columbus is the biggest city in Ohio, but you might also hear Cincinnati and Cleveland. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is in Cleveland. There is a picture of what AI thinks the Ohio River might look like. Kind of peaceful. And unfortunately, this man-made disaster happened at the worst time. It happened during rush hour. So it happened at the worst possible time during rush hour. 46 people ended up dying because of the bridge collapse. 46 people. What was this? 1967. So you would think by then engineers would design bridges without flaws, but unfortunately that is not the case. But that is the end of our English lesson, part 2 of man-made disasters. All right. I have another meeting I have to go to. Yeah, I'm worried about part 3 with terrorism could be one, and also a war. That'll be an interesting one for part 3. We will do it at some point, but yeah, should talk about that. I just don't like to get too political with these English lessons. So I do have a meeting that I need to go to. Wow, I didn't realize it was so late. Thank you all for joining. I need to go. Thank you all for the super chats. Where is it? Sita, thank you so much. Sita, thank you for gifting the membership. Tanya, thank you so much. And Michael, I hope you had a good day at work. Maybe you're watching on replay. All right. Adios, amigos.